I've had 15 different businesses since I was in the 4th grade. Today, I'm going to break down the businesses that actually work, which now generate me over $100 million of revenue every single year. But before that, I need to break down every single business that failed and the key lessons they taught me. See, growing up in primary school, I was obsessed with becoming a millionaire. My primary school, it was located next door to my house, so I literally could see my bedroom from my classroom. During lunch, I'd jump over the fence back home and I would bake cookies and make cordial. And then as soon as school ended, I'd jump back over the fence again, grab it all and sell them for $1. My plan was pretty simple: get really rich and buy trading cards. And it worked for a while. I came back at the end of the day with my picnic basket, which was filled with cookies before, and now it was just filled with money, thinking I'd made it. This plan quickly fell apart when my mum actually made me pay for all of the ingredients, wondering why I'd cleaned out the cupboard. It was here I learned my first lesson, which is know the costs of your product. My $20 in sales quickly went to zero. Despite my first setback, I was utterly hooked. Just the rush of turning something that someone values into cash was just incredible. Looking back on it, I can't really remember the first day that I said that I was going to be a millionaire. Always knew I wanted it. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. I was constantly trying to impress people, constantly not impressed with myself, but I was still on this quest just to become absolutely rich. The good news now is that I had a car and I also knew how to use the internet. So I saved a few $100s to launch my next big business venture. At the time, streetwear was massive. All the kids in Australia, despite never watching a game of basketball in their life, were wearing NBA merch. So I figured out how to find the merch online cheaply and order them to Australia. Honestly, I'm still not really sure if this is legal, but I got a couple of hats and started a Facebook group. Looking back on it, it was so easy. All I had to do is post photos of the product on this Facebook group and people would message me to buy them. I'd then go drop them the hats in my beat up RAV4. It got to a point where my wall in my bedroom looked like the Culture Kings wall, just covered in hats. And then I expanded into varsity jackets, thinking that they were going to work really well because they were the new trend. Unlike the cookies, I was definitely making profit here. I remember probably my best week, I did about $500 and I started getting a decent amount of cash underneath my mattress. This was all going well until suddenly everything just stopped selling. The style had ended. While I thought I'd built a community that was going to keep moving on, I didn't adapt product. It was a flash in the pan. If I knew more and I had more mentors in place, I could have created a big brand, creating my own clothing line. But instead, I just panicked. All my money was sitting on my inventory in my shelves in my bedroom and I had to clear them at a loss. So I really needed to build another plan to make me rich, which led me down to one of my first actual successful businesses, one that I still recommend that you should do to this day. At the time, I was assembling furniture and I was also studying university to become a mining engineer. And after a grueling shift, I met my dad at a supplement store down the road from work. The store was tiny, but when I walked in there was this huge wall of supplements and I was absolutely infatuated. I barely read a book at that point in my life. In the 20 minutes we were there, I just read these labels on the supplements non-stop. I went onto Instagram to learn more about what the supplements did. And then I realized that people were posting a bunch of education content without fitness. Without hesitation, I started an Instagram called S Fitness, which unfortunately standard for shredded fitness, but you won't hear it from me. I'd go into these supplement stores, take photos of the supplements and post them on Instagram and just write articles about them. The trick was I discovered how to actually grow these pages. Nowadays, these platforms make you go viral and put your post as a suggested post on the feed. But back then you didn't have like even videos on these platforms and you couldn't really go viral. Instead, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. because that's when you could make sure the west coast of the USA was still awake, and I'd message 10 plus pages asking for what's called a shout for shout. It was simple. I would post their page and that would post my page. You'd lose a few followers here and there, but you'd gain more than you lost. It got to a point where I had 6 phones with me at all time for each Instagram. Finally, brands started contacting me to advertise on the pages. And I was like, this is it. I'm finally going to be rich. I dropped out of mining engineering to focus on fitness and Instagram. I also decided to become a personal trainer. I worked with clients and earned income from the training sessions during the day. And then at night, I would just work on the Instagram business, giving me 2 streams of income. All kinds of companies started to reach out to me for paid promotions. I'd post their weight loss tea or ebook and they'd give me $20 to $300, depending on how big the page is. But unfortunately, my ADHD started to kick in here and I became bored of the process. I also started to fall behind of other brands that were taking it way more seriously. Like they were actually managing spreadsheets and tracking all of their results. The good news is I stuck around long enough to grow Nutrition Planet to 6 600,000 followers. I was posting healthy recipes, and I woke up one day to a DM from a huge page. It was called BeFit Foods, which at the time had over 1 million followers. And it was owned by a girl named Greta Van Riel, who had a network over 15 million followers, and she wanted to buy my page. Because I was tired of doing everything and I wasn't tracking anything, I agreed over a message, and pretty much the next day she wired me the money. No contract, just a handshake and a virtual message. It was a strange feeling. I was nowhere near being a millionaire, but it felt like I was. It was pretty cringe, but I remember lining up for this club with my friends, pretty much fresh out of school, and I refreshed my bank account. There was $100,000 in it. The problem was, looking back on it, selling was just the wrong move. I thought it was the right move to sell because all of the mentors were saying, this can be a house deposit, or your pages could be banned tomorrow. Now, while there is some truth to that, unfortunately, their fear was based on a misunderstanding of the space. Instagram definitely was in its infancy then, but whenever you spot a new trend and feel it's going to be big, you should go all in. There were brands that use these meme pages to create businesses that are now worth over $100 million by staying focused. But I listened to the wrong people and didn't believe the potential to create life-changing money via Instagram. If you have a decision whether to sell or double down in your early years, you need to analyze the opportunity cost and have a goal in mind. My goal was to reach a level of wealth that would set me up for life and basically become a millionaire. $100,000 felt like a lot of money, as the people around me just didn't have any. After I sold, I quickly realized it fell short of my goal. Regretting this decision, I decided to take all my money and chase another big win. I started a Vietnamese roll shop. I worked tirelessly, waking up early to get supplies and running the shop while managing some Instagram businesses still on the side. But the food business is brutal, and I eventually decided to give it away because I could not get it profitable no matter how much I worked. You see, new entrepreneurs, we often glorify businesses that we can see and touch. Things like clothing brands, gyms, food places. We relate to all of those things like on a daily basis, even when we're young. So we decided to create a business in those fields, when realistically, we should look at things like in the digital space and emerging so we can be competitive and have an edge. After failing the cafe, I lied to everyone and told everyone I sold it because I just couldn't deal with the shame of failing yet another business in front of everybody. I was in a very dark place. I stopped training, I stopped seeing my friends, and all just because I was trying to save this cafe. I started to actually question whether I was smart enough to become rich. This was one of the clearest memories that I ever have of being depressed. I couldn't get out of bed and just literally nothing brought me joy anymore. So I decided to run away. I moved to Melbourne to be around like-minded people. I also wanted to learn more about e-commerce. So I started working for a company called The Fifth Watches, which ironically was successful through similar Instagram meme pages. This was my first real job and it was worth it. I learned the missing link, and it's the same missing link that I see a lot of young entrepreneurs missing at the moment, which is they don't understand how to communicate value to customers. I also didn't understand how critical influencers can be to building authority for your brand. So with this inflated sense of confidence and new skills, I was going to launch another big venture. I'd fly back from Melbourne every single week and draining all of the savings that I had, and I would just grind seasonings in my parents' shed. The smell of garlic would just stay with me all week, but again, it just went under so quickly. I thought I could make the vials look beautiful glass vials, and that would be enough to make them sell and be different. But they were too expensive compared to the competitors, 3 times the price. Also, all of the glass vials broke when I shipped them, when I did actually ship a couple. My bank account, I remember checking it one day, refreshed, and it was $0, which was the first time that had happened in a very long time. I was officially living paycheck to paycheck. It really did feel different. I knew something good was around the corner. Through each failure, I had just built so many skills and nobody could take that away from me. I was determined to just keep getting better and better. I moved back to Adelaide and I approached a bunch of Adelaide-based businesses and just offered to work for them for free. This gave me hands-on experience with 2 fields: Facebook ads and videography. Hiring people for videography at that stage was just super expensive because nobody had the equipment, so everyone was eager to hire me. And after a while, they started to pay me. This period of learning was crucial as it helped me understand the platform that has made me the most money out of anything else, which is Facebook ads. You see, Facebook ads is the most efficient marketing platform. It was daunting to most people because it was slightly technical and you could lose lots of money. But by learning on other people's time, I was able to learn the skill despite being broke myself. The skill finally led me to my first successful business and my first successful income. income stream. I was scrolling Facebook and I came across a mum who was posting on a community group how she makes weighted blankets for her autistic child. She wasn't selling them, so all of the comments were just people begging, where can I get one? Can you make one for me? I did some research and I found that there was scientific evidence for actually using weighted blankets to help anxiety and also sleep disorders. So I decided to launch my own weighted blanket brand, Calming Blankets. I got this beautifully made 7-kilo blanket and launched Shopify website overnight. Within the first month, I made over $1,000 in sales on pre-order. Business grew so quickly. Within the first year, I made over $10 million in sales. Not only this, within a couple of months of finding success with Calming Blankets, I launched the Oodie, a line of wearable blankets. And while the initial response was terrible, like influencers are mocking the product and wouldn't wear it, I kept pushing it. And eventually that did over $10 million itself. And now it does over $100 million in revenue every single year. After about a year of those brands, I thought, hey, this is easy. I'm gonna launch another brand with one of my friends called Pup Naps, which in its 7th month did $1 million in its month. By all accounts, this finally made me a millionaire and made me rich, but it didn't make me happy. It made me scared. I was terrified with what happens if the Oodie got taken away from me. I wrongly decided to diversify even more, considering I thought it was easy. After all, I just launched these 3 8-figure brands very quickly. I went and launched so many other e-commerce brands. I assumed it was so easy to do, but they all started to fail. Despite all of the previous businesses, I still didn't understand that the key lesson is that focus is so important. I didn't know how to train, hire, and incentivize people to replace myself out of the already successful businesses. I also didn't know nearly as much about e-commerce as I thought I did. I was so egotistical. But having multiple income streams is often more risk if your main income stream still requires your attention. There is a time to diversify, but chances are it's only at the point where you can afford to hire someone as good, if not better, than you to manage that business while you're chasing other things. After a year of focusing on Oodie and restructuring the organization, I decided to branch out, hiring a CEO to take over the business. Oodie still had its issues, but honestly, I was just completely burnt out. I also didn't know whether I was a good CEO or not, and I knew by stepping down, I could learn a lot from what an experienced person would do. I haven't had a super active role with Oodie for over a year now. I sometimes come in and help with product or marketing or if there's a big issue. This actually allows me to focus on my second stream of income. You see, the whole time I was managing all of these brands, I was also filming every Saturday morning, posting on YouTube. The purpose of this was just never to make money. In fact, even now with 400,000 subscribers and the YouTube making over $220,000 in AdSense revenue, with all of our content costs, it still doesn't make money and breaks even. The real reason I started YouTube is I just wanted to teach, expand my network, and help with employee flow. I never thought I would sell any form of education because I always thought it was sleazy selling a course. But that all changed when I had a call with a founder that was literally in tears and was about to lose their business. They had just made all of the same mistakes that I had made, like lack of focus, too many products, poor capital management. I realized a certain program could have prevented it, and I could create that by properly paying and incentivizing coaches and invest way more time into experienced content for $1 million plus founders. This led me to launching Daily Mentor. I didn't want it to be a course. I wanted to make sure that it was every single coach understood things about the businesses that they were teaching for, so people could jump on a call and we could solve problems right then and there. We've been growing rapidly for the 8 months that we've been around, and while it's nowhere near the profits that I've made from my e-commerce businesses, I literally love helping these brands more than anything else I've ever done. One thing that I learned in my e-commerce journey is how imperative it is to find the right product at the right time. And that led me to launch Trend Rocket. Besides from those 3 income streams, I make a decent amount of money on like the interest of my cash, as well as dollar cost averaging into low management fee ETFs. I also invest small bits into crypto, but I don't actively trade because I've learned my lesson about focus. If I take my eye off e-commerce just even for a second, Oodie and Daily Mentor just won't become what I really want them to become. I've just learned this lesson of focus way too many times, so 3 forms of income is enough for me. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe.